What's happening in Ukraine? What's happening around the world? How do you see the situation? Where are we going?
Well, thanks, Jordan. Thank you for having me on, and thank you for having me back. It's a privilege to be with you and speak with your audience about this. Thank you for staying on this topic. Um, so, amazingly, the Ukrainians are still in the fight in the conventional war against the Russians. A week into it, no one who is familiar with the militaries of either side or who is familiar with basic practices of net assessment would have guessed that the Ukrainians would still be in a position where they have held their capital, they've held Kyiv, they've prevented the Russians from taking the second largest city in Ukraine, Kharkiv. They have lost ground in the south. They've probably lost the city of Kherson. They're probably going to lose the city of Mariupol, but they have not lost any other major city. And they've inflicted fearful losses on the Russian invaders, and have been able to beat off repeated Russian mechanized attacks and airborne attacks
How
on
have they
their
been able
forces.
to manage that? And why is it such a surprise?
Well, when you cast a sort of a basic net assessment, you count things like tanks and aircraft and artillery tubes and rocket launchers and stuff, and you look at the degree of modernization of both sides and what kind of equipment everybody has, and then you look at the numbers of troops and so forth. And by all of those measures, the Russian superiority is so overwhelming that all of your basic net assessment calculations would say that the Russians should have been able just to roll over them. And the Russians seem to have thought that they would just roll over them. And that's a big part of the explanation for why things have gone the way that they did. It's really become very clear that the Russians just did not expect that they were going to be in a big fight here. They thought that they were going to roll in, the Ukrainians were going to run away or surrender, and the Russians thought they were basically going to be able to drive into Kyiv and other cities and do their will. And I think they've been very much surprised by the fact that the Ukrainians have just decided to fight like lions, and have been also very skillful at it. And then there are some other factors that are important here too, that it's not obvious to me that when the Russian military put the forces in place that have conducted this invasion, they actually thought that they were going to have to conduct the invasion. I think that it's very possible that the initial deployments that they made were actually done more to generate psychological effects on Ukraine and the West in support of other things that Putin was trying to do. And certainly we know that Russian soldiers were surprised when they were told that they were actually going to invade Ukraine. But I think it's possible that there have been points over the past few weeks when Russian more senior officers were told that they were really going in, and were probably taken aback, because the Russians made a lot of mistakes in the way that they've set up to conduct this operation, and they've made a lot of mistakes in the way they've conducted it, and the Ukrainians have made them pay for almost every one of those mistakes.